Alright, here I have tap water in a stainless steel pot on a full boil. The flame there gets about like 500 degrees, but once it goes through the pot, it's the water. It only gets up to right around 215 degrees, I guess. But this is distilled vinegar, white vinegar, in an old cheap pickle jar. So what I'm going to do here is put it in this jar of boiling water. I want to heat the jar of vinegar up, because I'm going to put the jar of vinegar on an open flame, and I don't want the glass to explode. So what I got to do is heat it up so the molecules are already kind of moving around a little bit. Otherwise, an open flame would make this glass jar explode, or any sudden change in temperature could make the glass jar explode. So what you want to do is slowly heat it up in a pot of tap water. And then we'll remove the jar from the tap water and set it right on the flame. And it should be okay to distill the vinegar out of here. I should be able to get the vinegar above 212 degrees to boil out the water and stay below 244 degrees, which is the boiling point of acetic acid. We want to keep the acid in the jar, water out of the jar. But I got to get it hot enough, and I can't do it unless the jar's on the open flame, and I can't put the jar on the open flame unless I heat it up in the water. So my fire flame here is well over 550 degrees, which is as far as my needle goes. It even gets glowing hot. But if I stick it in the water here, it drops back down to, like, it says right under 200 degrees, but the water actually boils. The water only boils at 212 degrees, which maybe the impurities in the water lower the boiling point. That's possible. But let's just assume that the water should boil at 212 degrees, and it says like 198. Now that the water is boiling at what the temperature gauge says is 198, which I believe is actually 212, it's pretty low now because there's a lot of vinegar in the glass, but it'll never really go over like 190. It doesn't really get as hot as the water, and the water never gets as hot as the fire because of the pot. So since the stainless steel pot causes a lot of resistance in the conductivity of the heat, it's enough to make the water boil, but not much more than that. So what we want to do is heat the jar up as much as we can in the water, and then put it on the open flame so the glass doesn't explode. Just like putting ice in the freezer, you put warm water in the freezer, it freezes faster than cold water. That's because, well, the molecules of the warm water build up momentum faster than the cold water. So if you put cold water in the freezer next to warm water, the warm water is going to build up momentum in the molecules. It's going to freeze faster. Same thing with like oil in a car and a hot engine. Like if your engine cap is leaking oil and it drips down to the manifold and just drips on it, it's going to smoke like a motherfucker. It never catch on fire. But if you take the cap off, you try to top it off slowly with a little bit of oil, it's cold oil, and you accidentally drip a little bit on the manifold, it's going to light up like a wildfire. The same thing is going to happen with this glass jar. If I don't heat it up and then put it on the glass, the molecules are going to build up so much momentum, it's going to shatter the glass. And by heating it up, I can actually put it on the glass, or put it on the fire without shattering it, and then I can boil the vinegar enough to get the water out and leave the acetic acid in there that's below 244 degrees. And also, you want to keep the vinegar below 244 degrees because the acetic acid, it evaporates at 244 degrees. If you breathe it in, it'll choke you out. The water in the vinegar evaporates at 212 degrees. So keep it between like 212 and 220. You should be in the safe zone to really not choke yourself out. I mean, I got the kitchen ventilated with the hood and the windows as well as I can just to get the water out, but there's still a slight chance that some of the acetic acid could be in there. But you want to keep it low towards the boiling point of water to really make sure you don't choke yourself out here, because this stuff is not something you want to really breathe in your lungs. Well, never mind. I tried to move the jar to the fire. I had the wrong lid for the pickle jar set out for my ghetto distillation thing, and then the bottom just blew out of it. So I will do this again, like tomorrow or something.